I'm here to talk, of course, about the bill that we are debating today, an act driving climate policy forward. I want to just give a little bit of context to a particular component of this legislation relating to biomass subsidies, which is a piece of this bill that was based on legislation I filed alongside my colleague from Springfield and several other members of the Western Mass delegation, and actually including members of this body from across Massachusetts. The provision, which is included in the Ways and Means draft of this legislation that we're debating today, will prevent biomass facilities that are not currently in operation from receiving state clean energy incentives, which means that they will not be considered a renewable energy source or an alternative energy generating source under state law. To put a point on it and to explain why this provision is especially important from both a clean air and an environmental justice perspective, I'd like to take a moment to just explain the situation with the proposed biomass plant in Springfield, which at this point has been going on for well over a decade. Back in 2008, there was a proposal put forward to site a 35 megawatt biomass-fired power plant at 1000 Page Boulevard in Springfield. While the application was pending, the company altered their proposal to include forest-derived wood fuel as their energy source. Now, there's a lot of technical components to this, but at the end of the day, what does it mean? It would mean that a power plant with a billowing smokestack would have been placed in the middle of a densely populated community, in fact, one of the most densely populated communities in all of Western Massachusetts. It would have been the only large-scale biomass plant in Massachusetts, and instead of burning coal, really the only distinction is that it would burn wood. An estimated 1,200 tons of wood a day. What does that mean? That would have been 126 daily trips of 20-ton trucks going in and out of this plant, depositing and dumping wood pellets into a furnace, burning those wood pellets at high heat, and emitting the smoke through a smokestack. By the way, as I said, this would have been in a densely populated community, an environmental justice community, one of the lower income communities in the city, less than 2 miles from an elementary school, and in an area that was described in 2019 by the National Allergy and Asthma Association as the asthma capital of the United States. So as shocking as this is, the plant was actually, and ironically, applying for subsidies that the Baker administration made them eligible for. And their line of reasoning was that because they were burning wood, instead of burning coal or a fossil fuel, it would count as renewable because you could replant the trees after you cut them down and burnt the wood. That was the line of argument. And I just want to ask, does anybody think that cutting trees down, pelletizing wood, burning the wood, and emitting it into the air, into anywhere, but let alone in a densely populated neighborhood, is a good use of our state's renewable energy subsidies? And by the way, the subsidy would have been paid by all of us, by ratepayers. So people, when they turn the lights on, would pay more to support the burning of a dirty plant that was going to be emitting toxic pollutants into the air in the heart of a valley that was already described as one of the asthma capitals of the country. Again, 1,200 tons of wood a day. So the subsidy program was frankly being manipulated because it wasn't going to solar panels or wind turbines. It was going to incinerating massive quantities of wood and emitting that as smoke into the air. So a community effort led by dozens and dozens of organizations and leaders, local elected officials, nonprofit organizations, public health advocates across years tried to battle this plan. And the key to the math working for the plant was the company being eligible to get these subsidies from the state and from ratepayers. And there would have been there were some regulatory changes, and I will give the Baker administration credit recently, that would have indicated and do indicate that the subsidy is no longer eligible or no longer going to be in place. But what we do with the legislation today is we just make it simpler for the future. We strip the eligibility of biomass out. So moving forward, a plant like this would not be able to even apply to have the subsidized energy produced through biomass as part of the state's renewable energy programs. So if an administration changes, or the politics changes, or something else, or a judge gives a different interpretation, the permit is currently in appeal right now, the law will be clear that biomass, and in particular burning wood in this type of way, in this type of community, is not going to be eligible for subsidy at all. And frankly, it's going to be a very important thing for Springfield and for the Pioneer Valley, but it's going to be important for all of our communities. Because quite frankly, if a plant like that could be built on Page Boulevard in Springfield, it could be built in any community in this state and in any gateway city in this state. And so I really want to thank the Senate for including this provision. This was years and years of effort to get this included and to get this done. I want to thank the gentleman from Lexington for his leadership and partnership. I want to thank the gentlelady from Newton. I want to thank the Senate President and our Ways and Means Chair for the leadership they've shown in including this provision in today's climate legislation. And I certainly hope that our colleagues in the House and the governor and his administration will take note of this provision and will accompany us and join us in making clear that burning wood is in many cases just as dirty and bad for the environment as burning coal, and that ratepayers should be working to promote and to subsidize truly clean energy, wind, solar, and other sources that actually move us closer to clean air and to achieving our climate change goals. Thank you, Madam President, for the indulgence, and I want to thank my colleagues for including this provision.